Welcome to another This Week in Coworking discussion.
Hey everybody, and welcome back to the This Week in Coworking podcast feed. Once again, I am your host, Hector Kolonas, and today I'm joined by an amazing rising superstar of the coworking world, Blaize Randall. Blaize, how are you today?
I'm wonderful. Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you for taking time out of what is a very busy week for you to join us and tell us a little bit more about what's going on in the world of Blaize. I'm going to call it Blaize Inc. for the now, just to kind of keep the surprise. But before we dive into that, we have got a jam-packed newsletter this week, as well as a jam-packed conversation that we're going to have today. What we're going to start with is a little bit about what's happening in your world, Blaize, as well as why now. Try and associate some of that to what we're getting as insights from the Tenure survey that we're busy running worldwide. Then we're going to look at some news out of Nigeria about bundling AI into co-working. We're going to look at some childcare questions. We're going to look at memberships for square footage. And then we're going to have a pretty interesting discussion around at what point do creators in co-working not blend. So we're going to have a whole bunch of those conversations today. Right at the top of it, Blaize, you've been in co-working for about, 5-ish years now, 6-ish years? How long have you been in co-working?
Yeah, about 5 years.
5 years. And you were with a firm for a while, but you've now taken the well-celebrated move of going from an operator to an owner. Tell us about the news. What happened this week?
So I have officially announced my new business, Sonder Coworking and Events. I am so excited to finally be able to say that out loud. I've been an operator of a co-working space for over 4.5 years. And when the ownership group of one of the accounts that we had determined that they were no longer happy with the management services, they reached out to me directly after I had left the business and asked if I would consider taking on a management services agreement. So I think after building over a year of trust with that team and then really seeing the community that I can build and what I've done with the place, it was just the right step. And it felt really aligned with me at this time in my life. So being able to actually go from operator to owner sounds like a very simple step, but it's actually a really big deal. And as I was chatting with you earlier, Hector, there's a lot of imposter syndrome. There's a lot that goes into it. And it's a very unique experience to go from a confident operator to this is my baby owner.
And we couldn't be happy for you. And I totally understand the imposter syndrome, but I do want to just remind you that as a co-working community, we are all behind you. We are all backing you. We're cheering you on.
Thank you.
So when you get those moments, and I told the same thing to Jaime and other folks who've taken that shift from operator to a business owner, is we are your network. We are your village. So reach out and ask. We've all been through these questions before. And I don't know if we've actually said it a while so far, but what is the company called? What should people be looking for from Blaize?
So it's Sonder Coworking and Events. On Instagram, we're at Sonder Coworking. And we focus on management service agreements and events. So specialized events for everything from like your birthday party to a corporate event.
That's awesome. And right now you're operating in what region? If landlords are interested in reaching out to you, what is your current agreement? If they were like, oh, Blaize is awesome, I want to work with her. What is your current expansion plan?
So right now I'm in Kingston, Ontario, Canada. My first MSA assigned starts August 1st in this area, in this region. I'm definitely interested in Canada first at this time, definitely taking things slow, but the long-term plan would be to be able to branch out in North America wide, maybe worldwide. We'll see. Who knows? Yeah, never say never.
I mean, if I'd asked you 5 years ago, would you own your own co-working space? You would have been like, yeah, one day. It only took you 5 years, right?
Yeah. I probably would have said no.
So, I mean, it's really interesting because obviously you've been part of co-working for, as I said, a couple of 5-ish years now. You've been part of FLOC for about a year or so.
Yep.
Future Leaders of Coworking. Like, how is being part of something like that, a peer network of, emerging leaders? How did that play into your decision to be able to take this move and be like, you know what? I can do this. I'm going to do this. Have a village.
I think this is the reason I love co-working so much, is that it really is like village-based. People are just so good to one another in this industry. I think there's so many industries out there where it's competition first. And I really find that in co-working, it's community first. And we say that kind of as a buzzword, community in the co-working world. But it's true. It's like one of the most beautiful things I believe about the co-working community is that it really truly is community first. And of course, there is competition there. Of course, like we're all human, that is what it is, but it is this beautiful thing. And so with FLOC, it's like been so inspiring to work with incredible other future leaders that are genuinely good humans that are all about building each other up and sharing their stories and sharing their wins and losses, right? Like it's a really beautiful thing to see the real, raw, authentic side of humans. I think that, I mean, we'll chat about AI in a bit, but that's one thing that I really lean into in this world is being real and honest and authentic. And I think that's such a beautiful connection to have. So with through FLOC, honestly, I don't even know that I would be able to be here in this seat talking to you right now, confidently saying I own my own business without the support of them, but also without that community in general and the co-working community at large.
Absolutely agree. And thanks to the co-working community that we actually got to meet in person once upon a time, a couple of years ago. And we've had many conversations since then. So absolutely love this idea of a global village that we all get to be a part of because we're in this world of co-working. On that note, we are currently running a co-working tenure survey over at This Week in Coworking. If you are listening in, head over to twic.co/tenure, TNURE. I'll put it into the show notes as well with all of Blaize's links. But do go and submit your details. We are already starting to release insights as of next week. We've now gotten responses from around 314 locations across five different territories, 5 different countries. We're going to start sharing those results, like how long do community teams stay? How long do managers stay? Is there a defined career path in all of these businesses, or how many of these businesses have career paths? And, where do the managers come from? Like, do people hire internally? What percentage are coming externally into the co-working world? And we want to share more of this as kind of a benchmark for 2026.
I think that data is so important to the entire industry. I can't wait to get my hands on it.
Well, it will be out next week. There will be a early preview, given that there is still several thousand co-working brands who haven't submitted it yet. We are going to start giving out some previews next week, just so folks can kind of see the insights that we can gather when we share more openly without saying who said what. If we all share data together, we can build a benchmark for us to use internally, but B, a way for us to show that, hey, you are already working hospitality elsewhere. This industry has career paths. It has a trajectory. It has people who've gone from front manager to CEO, or from operator to owner, or from owner to multi-brand owner, or to franchise CEO, or etc. There are these things that are happening, and we don't have to look too far. If we look at FLOC, a lot of the people involved in Future Leaders of Coworking have moved roles in the last couple of months. They've gotten promotions, they've moved companies, they've taken bigger remits, they've launched their own businesses. And so this is finally something that we can point to and being like, coworking isn't just a community manager gig. There is so much more that you can do in this industry, and that's what we're hoping to tell with this benchmark. Now, you did mention AI a little bit earlier, so I'm going to jump over to Nigeria for a story that we got out from Nigeria. This was an interesting piece where one brand called Cafe One, they have 30 plus locations across the region, across the country, and they partnered up with an AI platform called Decide. This is the first time we've seen like token usage or AI usage merged into the price of the co-working membership, which I thought was a really interesting shift into where things could be going. For most of my career in co-working, almost 9 years, I led like the perks and partnership side for 1,000 plus co-working spaces. And so I totally get the value of merging in, like, hey, you get a co-working space, but you also get these other things bundled in with your membership. This is the first one I've really seen kind of leaning on the fact that the usage of the AI tool is bundled into your membership. Is that something would think about? Do you think it's a good idea, a bad idea? As a now business owner at Blaize, what do you think?
It's not something I've ever thought about for sure, but it's definitely something I think we should start thinking about. I know a dear friend of mine, Sam Shea from FLOC, once said to me, and it's really stuck with me throughout my usage of AI, she said, I don't think AI is going to take over jobs, but I do think those using AI will be taking over the industry. And I'm paraphrasing a little there. Sorry, Sam.
I'm so sad.
But that has stuck with me because I was kind of anti-AI for a while, just kind of worried that I was going to give too much detail, too much content, that it wouldn't feel human anymore. And part of my like personal brand is that you get to know me and you get to know like all of me, right? I really care about being authentic and showing what is the real version of me, not the like perfect version. So like it is messy sometimes and there isn't always perfect grammar and it's not always structured well.
Yes.
Email is kind of a non-negotiable these days. And so what a unique opportunity to have as an offering. I mean, people don't have to use it just because it's built into your offering, but being able to offer that as kind of a new, unique opportunity. I think most people in co-working spaces are leaning into an AI in some form. Why not add it as an opportunity that is included in your membership fee? Whether you use that as your choice.
And I can totally see some brands here in the US, over in Australia, et cetera, being like, your ChatGPT Plus membership is on us. It's $20 a month, $40 a month, whatever it is, as a perk to a member signing up for your space. It's not a bad way to kind of give access to tools as part of this. And then you then can kind of stack that with lunch and learns and, AI show and tells and all that kind of stuff. So you kind of build it into your programming without becoming an AI space. It becomes part of that offering, that full rounded offering. And just to go to a point that you mentioned, I speak to a lot of owners and executives and management and CIO teams where they're like, yes, AI shouldn't replace us. But where we're seeing now is it's finally becoming realized that you can do more of what makes you great if you let AI give you more context. So knowing that this is Hector's 200th visit, Hector loves chocolate covered biscuits, why not drop a packet of biscuits on his desk next Thursday when it's his 200th visit, which is something you would have thought about, but you don't have that context. You do probably in your head, but now you're running a business, you do have all these other things, life gets in the way.
Things to do.
Being able to systemize that to a point where there are nudges, there are information that your team could use, but not telling them what to do with it, right? It's about what you overhear and how you use that to create moments of delight, but using that from the conversation you've had with your member, from their onboarding, from the conversations that they've had towards you online, et cetera, where you can be like, I can use that to create these hospitality moments that only we can create without being all creepy. Like, I remember way back when I remember a member of the co-working space getting like a congratulatory email about their, upcoming birth of their first kid. And they're like, we didn't tell anyone. Like, how did you know to send us this, that you got these additional amenities that support, new mothers? And I was like, that is creepy. But you can do that without being creepy, right?
Without being weird about it.
You have to be able to balance that. Okay, we can use technology to do amazing things or amazing technological things, but you have to balance it with what is right. And that is where the humans come in, and people like yourselves who understand that human touch to make sure that if you are going to reach out, if you are going to create these moments, it's things that people feel good about and not just because you can. And that was a big part of like the dynamic pricing deep dive that I really started this week, is balancing that. Just because you can optimize for every element of pricing doesn't mean you should, because at some point you erode trust. And I think AI is pretty much the same when it comes to internal things. You want to be able to provide that great experience, but still utilize the tools to be able to do more of it without burning your team out. And that does bring us to another post in this week's newsletter. We saw a post from Jerome Chang talking about the fact that co-working spaces sell memberships and not square footage. What was your takeaway from what Jerome shared? And I mean, you've already mentioned some of it, given the fact that it's about people. But I mean, what caught your attention about this post?
Yeah, it's funny. It really does, because my sales side of me has always been, once you walk into a co-working space, it kind of sells itself. Like, you don't have to be necessarily like great at sales, but which is wonderful because it takes that, like, in real estate, they call it commission breath, where you're like we need you here. Like, come and see us. It's like, this is our wonderful space. You should totally be a part of it if it works for your team. And what I love about selling the membership versus a square footage, because I actually I don't know the square footage. I mean, I know the square footage of the space, but I couldn't, and the reason why, or this is the price per square foot. That's just not the way that I sell. And that's not the way that coworking traditionally, I guess, or maybe now it doesn't sell that way. And so I think it's just a wonderful opportunity to talk more about the feeling you get and the connections you get, the network that you'll build, the opportunity cost, right? Like, I'm always one to talk about the fact that when you come into a co-working space, when you look at traditional office lease, you're talking very much about square footage, and gives you a look at, here's what we offer and here's what you get. But you also don't have to think about things like changing a light bulb. Like, is the Wi-Fi going to go out? Is the bill paid?
Yep.
How do I access something? How do I clean something? Who's emptying the garbage? You don't have to plunge toilets, right?
Yep.
Like, it's the little things that you don't necessarily always recognize in the co-working industry without talking about square footage, because all of the additional perks and bonuses that you get. And I mean, think about if you gave AI, I can't price per square foot if I'm also giving you these types of services.
Yeah.
I think it's such a unique opportunity to have that conversation. I'd love to talk more on commercial real estate and how they can start using co-working to kind of gain traction there as well.
Yeah. I mean, it's definitely something we're seeing. There were a few other posts about how, managed services are eating into both traditional commercial real estate and flex in London. And that's because it's solving that outcome, right? They manage the office,
Yeah.
and you don't have like the baggage of having to share space with other companies. So it's definitely, they're borrowing the playbook and the sales playbook and the way we approach building relationships with tenants or members, and are putting that into commercial real estate. So it's definitely happening. I really do like some of Jerome's points about, learning more about the context of why someone is interested in your space or thinking about your space and what they aim to achieve, like their goals, their objectives, their dreams of what happens next for them in their life, because that allows you to do so much more. Like, instead of showing them this is a meeting room, this is where you could prepare for your investor decks if you know that they're raising money. This is where you and your team can hang out after your 24-hour hackathons that you like to do, right? You can really tailor how you show them around the space if you ask the right questions and you're genuinely interested and curious about what they're doing. I think curiosity is lost in a lot of sales processes. We're all trying to just check the check boxes that are like, find out if they're the buyer, how are they quantified? And we forget to just be genuinely curious about, what is it that you do? Like, okay, this is what you do for work. What is it that you do outside of work? Oh, you like to play, a Monopoly. Great. We have a Monopoly club that people play, little things like that really show the human side of what we all do here is just going to close better deals with the right type of member. But it's also, we're starting to see that differentiation within the industry of community focused spaces as opposed to commoditized office space. And we're starting to see that, and people are becoming better at deciding which type they want, but also means operators are getting better at deciding which kind of customers they want. I think we're seeing so much pent up demand coming into the industry right now that folks can start to decide, I want my community to feel like this. I don't need to fill every desk. As someone who now owns a business whose job it is to fill the space, that a lot of time, and you know this from your operational days, that putting the wrong member in the space is more detrimental. And so by kind of thinking about these conversations and having an actual conversation, A, you can figure out if they're a good fit, but B, if they're not, you have enough context to send them to where they should be a better fit for without being an ass, right? And just being like, from what you've said, we'd love to have you come and join our event, but I think you would be more comfortable in XYZ down the street, or I'll give you an introduction, I'll give you a discount on their first month. Like, you can do so much more with referring and bouncing guests if you know who they are and what they're looking for, as opposed to just an inquiry that's like, AI agent said you must put this person in a desk.
Exactly. And that's the human connection again, right? It's
Yep.
always at the heart of it. You really need to be able to connect with people and get to know them on a nuclear basis so that you can support them for what their actual needs are.
And so there's another growing need that we've kept seeing for like years now in the newsletter and has been on my top of my mind for at least the last 5 years personally. But this ability of having a space that you can also take your kids to is something that keeps popping up its head. And I know that it is something that is extremely, extremely difficult to get right. I have a lot of friends across the industry who've tried this, pivoted, shifted, but creating spaces where, on the one hand, kids are welcome, and on the other hand, kids are taken care of so that caretakers can get work done, maintain their relationships, maintain their business roles and their jobs, or just have somewhere to just have a coffee and process things while the kid is safe somewhere. Say you're Blaize. I know that this is a topic we've discussed before,
Yeah.
but Canada was one of the countries that was leading the charge in co-working with childcare. And unfortunately, a lot of the pioneering spaces ran into financial troubles, they ran into regulatory troubles. Is this something that you think we will be able to solve over the next 5 years?
I think that, I mean, I have two daughters myself, and childcare doesn't end after daycare either, right? It's PD days, it's PA days. I don't know what they are. I don't know
Yep.
what they are across the world
Yep.
here. What are you supposed to do with them? As a working mom, there is a ton of mom guilt that you feel in general when you're working. And I just think what a beautiful concept to be able to have your kids see you working but also being taken care of. Because the reality is, we have a kid-friendly, we'll say, co-working space. My kids are there with me every once in a while, but they think it's like Wonderland. Like they come in and they are just like, this is the best place on earth. There's a candy jar. There's people that they love. We print off coloring pages for them. They have a fun time, but I don't get the work done that I need to get done when they're there, right?
Yes.
And so imagine coming to a meeting and being able to be like, oh, you don't have to miss that meeting. You can bring your kid. The kid can go into this and be around other kids that are like, and maybe even the education piece, right? I know that financially it's a tough industry to crack, especially in Canada. We have a lot of government funding now for childcare. And so people are paying less and less for childcare, which means you don't have the funds to pay the staff. So I think that's definitely part of it, but making sure that that's an option for working parents. I just think there's nothing that I would love more than to be able to go to the same place, know my kids in the same building, have lunch with my kid potentially, and have that opportunity to share a space that I love going to with the people that I love most.
Yep. I mean, it's a really big thing here in like corporate America with like certain employers having on site daycare that isn't like full time. But for those days where it's a snow day or it's the World Cup, and so they've cancelled all school for some freaking reason.
Important days.
Yeah, but they don't cancel our work, right? As caregivers, and so having somewhere where you can is such a huge lifesaver, like time wise, for parents who can't just drop everything every time the school decides to close or have a personal development day or teacher development day or whatever they call them. And so I have to believe that someone will come up with something that all operators can kind of deploy, because it's not full-time care. It's not a full-time school. It is there for those specific days. And we've really, over the last 13 years, figured out how to take an empty shell of an office and turn them into podcast studios, beautiful rooms like the one you're sitting in, meeting rooms, therapy spaces, shared community assets.
Yeah.
Surely we can figure that out with childcare. And the reason why it's in this week's newsletter is there's an entire piece on Axios suggesting places that people can take their kids and get some work done, which just goes to prove that the big media is still talking about this. There is a pent-up demand. And I'm hoping we're seeing a lot of operators exploring this again. It is kicking up a new conversation. We're seeing Watso create partnerships over in Australia to bring daycare facilities or services into all of their locations, so 40 plus locations across Australia. Hopefully, through this and through all the conferences that are happening, we can share the ideas that make co-working infrastructure for how cities run. At least that's what I personally believe. And I will keep standing on my soapbox, shouting about it until it happens.
Yeah, a hill you'll die on, as you would say.
Yes,
Yeah.
absolutely. And so you did say hill you would die on. So I'm going to jump us to the last story for our newsletter. There was a fun post this week from it's a magazine about creators and the creator economy. And they were talking about how more and more creators are choosing co-working over what's called hype houses. So I don't know if you've ever seen like the documentaries or YouTube videos about a bunch of, I'm guessing ordinarily, a bunch of teenagers in a house creating content and the shenanigans that go into that. But increasingly, they're saying or reporting that more creators are choosing to go into co-working spaces for the facilities, the structure, it being a place that's serious and is actually conduits doing work, as opposed to going into these kind of creator houses or creator mansions. It's great to see kind of co-working play into that industry. I know a lot of us have built podcast studios for a very long time where like people aren't really using them. A lot of people created media spaces. They created rooms that you could take great photography in, you can take great videography. I know spaces that have kitchens that are used for recording like cooking content. Initially, they thought they were going to be a shared kitchen concept, and they actually became a creator studio for, chef influences and cooking influences, which is just a really fun way to think about that.
Yeah.
And so it's just a very interesting shift that we're seeing of creators choosing co-working because of the amenities and the infrastructure that we've put down, as opposed to going into these houses. Are you seeing many creators in Canada kind of opt towards co-working? Is this predominantly an American thing?
Yeah, I think we definitely have less creators in general, less people, less creators. But I do see a shift in it. I think that there is a unique opportunity to showcase space as well in that, where to me that gets me very excited. I'm like, oh, come see my space, use my space. Like I definitely want to showcase it. And your demographic might not be the people that I'm reaching or the demographic that I'm reaching. Get my space out to the world, but also support local content creators. I think that there is definitely that like balance between what we would be comfortable with versus what we would not be comfortable. So in those hype houses, like if you're doing like BMX biking through the space or sliming people, pulling pranks, like there's definitely a balance and would have to be a bit of a playbook on what the do's and don'ts. But I think for anybody would be lying if they said they wouldn't want a content creator to come and use their space and have the opportunity to have them in their space. Beautiful way to be able to celebrate what you have and what they're doing. And so, I think it's a great thing that overall, what a way to be able to connect with more people and showcase spaces and the industry in general. But definitely can see that like fine line that we kind of chatted about, there would be some boundaries that would need to be set, or maybe some content that wouldn't be great for the space.
And there are a lot of creators out there who would try just to kind of get a rise out of people, try and create a bit of buzz. And I can completely get that. But I do think that, that's kind of where we become like the daycare operators, where we're like, okay, everyone has to play nice, right? Everyone wants to kind of grow into their own people and kind of do what's important to them. But we do have to kind of make sure that everyone is safe. Everyone's whole body and whole soul is feeling safe and confident and comfortable coming into the space. There was a whole story in a co-working space here in the US a couple of months ago where a growth hacker or viral marketer for one of the businesses started doing these pranks or attention grabbing stunts within a co-working space. There was someone that's like, oh, this will be really funny if we like covered the entire office in post-its with our logo on it. I'm like, yeah, that's funny. But other people are running the business. And there was a lot of contention when they posted that, because they're like, oh, we got told we have to leave our co-working space. And a lot of people were like, oh, the co-working space is really like no fun at all, name and shame them, etc. And I was like, if it was my space, I would own that. Like, we love your energy, but we also care about our other members. And you'll probably attract better members by drawing that line in the sand
Yeah.
and being like, oh yeah, you can come and do whatever you want. Please, throw pies at CEOs' faces because that's what you believe in. You have to have that fine line, right?
Yeah, there's also the ability to like ask, right? You could ask me, can I put sticky notes all over the entire office for a video? Would that be okay? And it can still look like you did it without consent, but you can get the consent. There's
Absolutely.
also that, right? Like you could be that fun co-working space on a Sunday when no one's around and you can sticky
Yeah.
note the heck out of space.
Absolutely.
So I think
as long
there's
as you
also
kind of go
that
past
where
our
it's,
logo on the way, like sticky note and go past the logo.
yeah, our logo's on the sticky note with yours.
Of course.
Obviously. Yeah, but that's that's just it. Like there's definitely some fine lines that would need to be, boundaries that need to be, but there's always a way. It doesn't have to be a no, it can be a how can we make this work?
Love that. And that is why you are the perfect person to be running a co-working business.
Oh, you're so sweet.
Thank you so much for joining me on this episode. I look forward to seeing how Sonder grows and thrives from here. As always, we are here to support you. Keep sharing your news. If people could do one thing to support you today, what would it be?
Oh, that's such a good question. Go follow me on Instagram. I really want to get a great little Instagram following going at Sonder Coworking.
Perfect. I'll drop that in the show notes as well. People go ahead, show Blaize and Sonder some love on Instagram. And
Thanks,
for
guys.
folks, our absolute pleasure. Folks who want to catch me in person, I will be in New York today by the time this comes out, having a roundtable for co-working leaders in Manhattan. Links are all on the newsletter. In a couple of weeks, I will be in Australia, in Sydney. So if you're listening in from Australia, come and catch me at Flexible Workspace Australia's national conference. I'll be doing a keynote there, and we're going to do a roundtable on the morning of the conference. So definitely come to that if you want to geek out about all the things that keep me up at night and all the things I'm excited about. Definitely join me for that. And outside of that, I will be virtually today, this afternoon, and Kat Johnson's Co-working Convos, talking all about like the retention of community managers. And I'll be sharing the first sneak peeks into the data that we gather in the Tenure. So go ahead and grab that. I'll drop all the links into the newsletter, into the show notes. Blaize, thanks again. Take care of yourself and onwards and upwards.
Thank you so much.